Procol Harum music for us, A Whiter Shade of Pale, and we're going to chat to her afterwards. Let's hear the music, Avril. It's very unusual to have somebody who's played the classic Aranjuez guitar concerto to be dabbling, and then not dabbling, but actually perfecting African sounds with classical guitar. How did that all happen?
Actually, that was quite a fantastic experience for me. I decided that it would be really interesting to take indigenous African rural music and try and recreate some of the indigenous sounds on guitar. And I traveled around all parts of South Africa into the homelands, various areas, and listened to a lot of their music, and also listened to a lot of tapes of recorded music that Andrew Tracy had done. And then from that, recreated sounds on the guitar. Took a witch doctor swish with a porcupine quill.
And did you get what you were looking for?
Yes, I got very close to the sounds.
Because Dave Hewitt has done something similar too, hasn't he?
It was quite interesting, actually, because I took the classical angle, and I had done that actually before Dave did his commercial angle on that. And taking the classical angle, it enabled me to tour the concert stages in Europe. And from that, obviously, a lot of things came about. I went to do BBC and onto LA and LA radio and so on. And funnily enough, people really appreciated, because they could understand the classical side and they could appreciate where I was coming from on that side, and then taking these different myths and legends and recreating the sounds of indigenous instruments.
I noticed that you were offered the musical score for the Ice Runner, a movie that was supposed to be shot in Russia. Did you actually do it?
Actually, what happened was, you know, the financing takes quite a while for those things to come through. So I studied film scoring in LA and did a lot of audition pieces and so on, and 2 movies that were due to take off. The Ice Runner did go, but I decided at that stage that I didn't want to tour through Russia. There was all that, it was at the time that all these things were happening and revolutions were going on. So I decided to come back, and I didn't actually do that. I left that.
When you studied film scoring, when you do study, do you do it from the angle of the instrument that you specialize in, or do you do it right across the board?
Having done a lot of keyboard work as well, I actually used to do all my work on synthesizer. So you do your initial preparations on synthesizer and then write out your scoring for orchestra from that.
Your father taught you to play the guitar at the age of 11.
Yes.
Did he also play the guitar?
Yes, he did. He used to play clarinet, and then he spent so much time in the sun, he had a lot of problems with his lips, so he took up the guitar, and from that, obviously,
You went to UCT,
had a keen interest.
It's such a difference though, because clarinet being a woodwind and going into strings, it's completely different, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely, completely.
We know of a few guitarists, you know, like Nathito Yepes and that sort of thing, but are youngsters interested in learning to play classical guitar as opposed to, you know, the noisy ones?
Well, I think the thing today is that people want a quick solution, and I think that in the end we often lose out. We lose out in terms of what we could become as a person, and the exploration that really studying an instrument and studying music seriously can give you. So I think there is a lot of interest, and I've certainly done what I can to stimulate it. And having moved down to Cape Town now, we've got a thriving little guitar orchestra at Kirstenhof Primary School.
A little orchestra? Haven't you got one of 20
And then
people?
we did one with adults. This was a junior one.
Oh, yes, yes.
And then I did one with adults where I arranged Ravel's Bolero. And that was quite exciting, having to arrange for 20 guitars.
That must be very unusual, probably a world first, having an orchestra of 20 guitarists.
It was. They have done ensemble groups in the States and in the East, and the Japanese are obviously quite keen on things like that. But to actually take a piece of music like Ravel's Bolero and arrange it for 20 guitars as if they were string parts of an orchestra, and then I even had the percussion section where instead of using actual drums, I wanted to create the sounds on the guitar, so they were tapping away on the guitars to get the rhythm, which of course carries the whole way through the piece.
Did you actually get to record the evening?
We did. We recorded we had an informal concert evening, and we recorded that for SABC, which was broadcast on Arts on Ones a few weeks ago.
It would be nice to take some of that, wouldn't it, one morning?
Yeah, we should. I was just looking at that lovely guitar. Where does it come from? Is it made specially or what?
Well, I've got about 7 guitars. I've had I've had guitarists in Cape Town who made my first guitar, Colin Cleveland, and then Mervyn Davis made me a special African guitar, and then of course I've also used the Ovation guitar for when you need amplification and so on. So then you can plug it in and have your strong booming sound.
Well, Avril, it's been so nice chatting to you.
Maybe we can have some more.